This chapter 3 is about working with decimals. So in order to start with decimals, you need to know how to round decimals. So this right here is called the one spot. It's on the left-hand side of the decimal. This is a decimal. This right here is called the tenth with a TH. This 3 is in the hundredth position. This 2 is in the thousandth. And this 5 is in the 10,000th. Oops, that doesn't have an N right there. 10,000th position. So when you're rounding for decimals, you have to read first what they're asking to round it to. If it says round to the nearest whole number or integer, you're gonna look at the one spot. So this is if you have to round to the nearest whole or integer number, it means you don't want to have any decimals, so you don't want anything over here. If it says round to the 10th, you only want one decimal. One decimal. If it says round to nearest hundredth, you want 2 decimals. If it says round to nearest thousandth, you want 3 decimals. And if it's round to nearest 10,000, you want to round to 4 decimals. So for A, what you do, if it says round 8.7398 to the nearest tenth, that means we want 1 decimal. So in order to round it to the 1 decimal, you actually need to look at the 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. So you actually need to look at the 3 right here. So decide if you round up or if it stays the same. So what you're going to do is 3 is less than 5. Numbers that are more than 5 or more, you're going to round up. So this 3 is less than 5, so I'm going to keep 8 point, but now I'm rounding to 1 decimal. So this is 7. The number to the right, which is 3, is lower, so it's 8.7 is my answer. Round to the nearest integer. Integer means no decimal at all. So I'm going to look to the 7. Now, if 7 is 5 or more, it means I need to round up the 8. So 7 is 5 or more, so the nearest integer is 9. And now let's look down here for more examples. So right here, the place value is in the 10th spot. So if I round to the nearest 10th, I need to look at the 1 to the right of the 10th. So since 1 is less than 5, I'm going to keep the 4 like it is, so it's 38.4. The place value of this is on the left-hand side of the decimal. That's the 1 spot. So rounded, I'm going to look to the right, which is a 7. Since 7 is 5 or more, I'm actually going to round up the 0, and the 0 turns into a 1. The place value right here, here's a decimal, so to the right of the decimal is the 10th spot. So if I round to the 10th spot, I need to look at the 6. The 6 is 5 or more, so that means I'm going to round the 5 up. So it's going to be 7098 point, and instead of writing 5, I'm going to write 6. The place value right here, it goes ones, or tens, hundreds, thousands. So the 3 is in the thousandth spot. So in order to round, I need to look to the right of it, which is a 4. And a 4 is less than 5, so I'm going to keep the number 3. So it's going to be 274.943. The place value right here is a tenth. So I'm going to look at the 2. The 2 is less than 5. So if the 2 is less than 5, I need to keep this number to 5.0. Keep it at 5.0 instead of 5 because you're showing precision. Okay, you're showing that you actually did go farther with the decimal and it's accurate that way. Okay, 9.851. So this is 2 decimals in, so this is the hundredth. That looks like a T, hundredth. So when I'm rounding, I'm going to look at the 1, and the 1 is less than 5, so I'm going to keep 985 as my answer. Okay, rounding versus estimating. Some real-world problems require only an estimate, which estimates are, an estimate is not exact. So we're going to decide whether we need not an exact, which is estimate, or an exact answer. The headline noting the number of people living in China. The number of people living in China changes every second because new babies are born. So this is an estimate. We don't know the exact number of people living in China. The amount of money a babysitter charges per hour. Well, if I'm having a babysitter, I want to know the exact amount. So I want an exact answer. The width of a window screen. So if you're going to go buy a window screen, in order for it to fit, it needs to fit exactly in there. So I want the exact amount. I don't want to be off by an inch or two because the window screen won't fit. The distance from the Earth to the moon. That's also an estimate. That's a hard thing to measure exactly to the nearest centimeter how far it is. The hours you practice piano in 1 month. That's also an estimate. Because you probably don't have it down exactly how often you practice. If you just sit down, practice a little here and there, it's hard to get an exact amount. The number of tickets to sell for a play. This would be exact because what if you sell too many tickets? Then people won't have a spot to sit. So that's important to be exact. Sometimes you're not in a position to calculate something exactly. That's when you have to estimate. Like if you're going shopping and you have money, you know that you have $20 and you're adding up something that's $6.55 plus $3.22. Maybe you just estimate it and say it's about $10. So to estimate, what you do is 115.67 is pretty close to 115. I used 115 instead of 116 because 115 is an easier number to work with. And then 83 is pretty close to 80, or you could also say 85. And 59.98 is pretty close to 60. So now you have to add these numbers up, which are easier. I kind of like using 115 plus 85 because that is 200. So this is 200 plus 60 is 260. So the answer, 258.86, which is right here, is close to the estimate. The estimate is 260. All right, and then I'm subtracting here. So 176, let's say it's close to 180. You also could say 175 as well. 39 is close to 40. So 180 minus 40 is 140. Actually, I'm looking at this and that can't be right. So I'm going to skip the rest of that. So this is estimating when you round up or down and add or subtract instead of using a calculator. Down here, there's 2 different methods to estimating. There's what's called clustering. Clustering is when all the numbers are kind of around the same number. So if I look at all of these numbers, they're about 15. So add 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15. So 15 and 15 together is 30. This is 30. 30 plus 30 is 60. The next one, these are all close to 5. So 5 plus 5 plus 5 equals 15. These numbers, let's see, what are they all close to? They're all close to 25. So this is 25, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 25 times 5 is like how much money is 5 quarters? So it's 125. There's also front end rounding all numbers to the nearest tenths place. So this would be 2.7 plus 1.7 plus 1.1. So when I add these together, I try not to think about decimals. I'm going to add 27 plus 17 plus 11. And then at the end, I'm going to put my decimal in. So this is 28 plus 27. 28 plus 27 is 15, 55. So it's about 5.5. Remember, I got 55, but I have to add my decimal in because I took it out. Okay, and then I know it says round the nearest tenth spot, but I'm just going to round. This is going to round to 7, 2, and let's put this up to 10. Remember, I'm estimating, so it's not exact. 7 plus 2 plus 10 is 19. And you might have a little bit different rounding. So 1 plus 2. And since I rounded this one down and this one down, I'm actually going to think about rounding this one up to 8. 1 plus 2 plus 8 is 11. I don't want to round everything down because then my answer is going to be a lot lower. So sometimes I round up and sometimes I round down, and that's the best way to estimate. Okay, so the bottom is careful. You are not allowed to simply type in the numbers and round your answer. You need to show the work and how you estimated before you add them. So this is what I mean by showing work. I actually wrote everything that I'm adding instead of adding them up and then rounding. That's important because we're trying to learn how to estimate. That's a skill that's required without a calculator.